Well, welcome to all of our attendees today. Welcome to our Wellness Matters webinar, In Touch with Myself, Understanding Core Emotional Needs. And our facilitator this evening is Viktoriia Brzhezytska. And I am going to introduce her a little bit more in just a couple of minutes. My name is Nicole Engrand, and I'm the owner and director of River's Edge Counseling Center. This talk tonight is part of our Wellness Matters series. We have over 150 Wellness Matters talks that are recorded and they're on our website. So you're welcome to view all of them. Lots of different topics for you. I am just really excited actually because I just got the titles for our upcoming talks for this winter and spring. So they won't go on the website until the weekend probably, but I can give you a bit of a sneak peek of what's coming up. So we have, let me see, where is my list here? Pathways to Positivity, Exploring Wellbeing and Positive Psychology. That's still coming up next month in December. And in January, we have one that was rescheduled from last month called Understanding Burnout and Compassion Fatigue. And I know we have had a lot of interest in that one. So the upside is we'll be able to include some more people in that one. Also, this winter and spring, navigating grief and mental health during infertility, embracing second puberty, perimenopausal mental health considerations. We have one called Finding My Way, an Artist's Journey, exploring mental health through creativity, curiosity, and embracing the unknown. We have one called Sometimes Getting There Faster Means Slowing Down. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. Expanding the window of tolerance, how to respond instead of react, and unlocking ADHD, a deep dive into the unique challenges for women and girls. So some really rich topics coming up if you're interested in registering for them as well. We're just in the middle of most of our programs and groups for this fall, but we still have one coming up that there's a few days to register for yet. It's just a one evening workshop called Strengthening Skills, Strategies and Supports for Parents of Children on the Autism Spectrum. And that's an in-person workshop. So if you're interested, I know there's still space. We also have a professional development workshop coming up on November 23rd for therapists, if there are any in our group today. And it's integrating somatic psychotherapy and counseling. It's a basic clinical skills workshop with Robin Clausen. And I also have the lineup. I won't read them all to you, but lots of really wonderful groups and workshops coming up this winter and spring. So all of that's going to go up on the website soon. And without further ado, we'll move into our talk tonight. And I'll introduce Viktoriia to you. In case I forget to say before I do introduce her and we start, it's a webinar tonight, so you don't have access to your camera or your microphone, but you do have access to the chat and to the Q&A, and I'll keep my eye on it in case you have any technical difficulties. And we'll have a few minutes at the end. If you have some questions for Viktoriia or some comments, we can read them as well. So Viktoriia is a Canadian certified counselor, and she has extensive training in psychotherapy. In her practice with clients, she draws on CBT and schematherapy. You'll learn, I think, a little bit more about schematherapy tonight, but it's a third way cognitive therapy that combines strategies and tools from CBT, as well as emotion-focused therapy and psychodynamic approaches. For the last 13 years of her practice with adults, adolescents, and children, Viktoriia has learned to develop a safe and trusting relationship with her clients, and she strongly feels that this is the foundation of good therapy. Using scientifically based approaches while building caring and trustful relationships helps clients to get a better understanding of themselves and the roots of their problems to bring further healing. During her years of practice, Viktoriia has helped clients with many issues that were causing them distress, including anxiety, depression, and the impact of stress, grief, and trauma in their lives. She's also worked with clients with varying personality disorder traits and personality disorders. Viktoriia offers services in English, Ukrainian, and Russian, which is really awesome. She has been on our team for over a year now, Viktoriia. I was trying to think how long. We're so fortunate to have her with us, and she brings such a wealth of experience and skills. So with that, if you want to share your screen, we can start your presentation, Viktoriia. There we go. Perfect. Good. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to talk about how we can be in touch with ourselves. And so, what do we need to be in touch with ourselves? And we usually need to be aware of our feelings, as they are like compass in our lives and can help us understand our needs, as that we could feel good about our lives. We need to understand our emotional needs. And since emotional needs are at the core of schematherapy, therapy that I love and have been working for the last 10 years, we will talk about it a bit. So, we'll talk about fundamental concepts of schematherapy. We'll talk about 5 core emotional needs. We will have an exercise that can help us be more in contact with our emotional needs, understand it. And we'll also be more aware how that can guide to improve the quality of our lives, the co-emotional needs. So, schematherapy. It's an integrative psychotherapy that combines original theoretical concepts and techniques with those from pre-existing models. Schematherapy was developed in the 1980s by Dr. Jeffrey Young, a clinical psychologist who worked with patients at the Center for Cognitive Therapy at the University of Pennsylvania. And while he was observing that traditional cognitive behavioral therapy was pretty effective, for some clients, he noticed that for those especially who were having deeper rooted issues, for those clients, he was seeing that it was not responding as well to as they were not responding as well as to standard cognitive therapy techniques. In response, Dr. Yan began developing schematherapy, integrating elements from various therapeutic approaches, including cognitive behavioral therapy, attachment therapy, emotion-focused, gestalt, psychodynamic. Though originally formulated as a treatment for more specific conditions such as personality disorders or chronic emotional problems, in the past decades, chemotherapy has become an increasingly popular therapeutic approach for the treatment of various psychological conditions such as depression, anxiety, substance abuse, OCD, relational issues, and eating disorders, as well as trauma. So, what are the main 4 key conceptions of schematherapy? The first is early maladaptive schemas. The second is co-emotional needs. The third is maladaptive coping styles, and the fourth is schema modes. We will not cover all 4 today, but we'll focus more on co-emotional needs and early maladaptive schemas because they are really interconnected. We all have emotional needs. And when these are not met in our childhood or adolescent years, we develop early maladaptive schemas. That really means a faulty story or beliefs about ourselves that developed in our childhood or adolescent years because of our negative experience. We view the world through our schemas. We all have them. And schemas, they are like lenses that interpret information about ourselves, others, and the world. They can be positive and maladaptive. So children who experience positive environments and have their core emotional needs more or less met tend to develop adaptive schemas, healthy schemas, such as believing they are valued, for example, or capable. On the other hand, children who encounter unmet needs, or they had in their childhood too much of bad things, like they were really seriously, they were criticized, they were abused, bullied, or they experienced neglect, or they had too little of good things, um, not only too much of bad things. They could not have a lot of bad things, but they could have just too little of good things, like they were not feeling loved or cared, or they were not feeling protected or accepted. They may develop maladaptive schemas that can be pretty rigid and can bring unhealthy patterns that can negatively influence relationships and lives in general. Sometimes trauma in adulthood can also lead to maladaptive schemas, but it is considered that the main maladaptive schemas are developed in early childhood or adolescent years. So, what else influence the creation of maladaptive schemas is the temperament. So it depends. So we all have different temperament, and sometimes when the kids have, say, hypersensitive temperament, they can be more susceptible to forming maladaptive schemas. We need also to understand when schemas become maladaptive, they tend to grow rigid and inflexible over time. And those schemas can be very resistant to change. They are making us focus on the things that actually support the schemas, and we don't pay attention where it's different experience that we are having and that it doesn't prove the schema is right. So schemas are influenced by early childhood and adolescent experience, and secondly, by temperament. This is how it forms. So, for example, one of the schemas is called failure schema. Children who develop a schema that they are incompetent or a failure rarely challenge this belief even as adults. This schema usually doesn't go away without therapy. Overwhelming success in people's lives is often still not enough to change the schema. And the schema fights for its own survival and usually is quite successfully. So what's one of the goals of schematherapy is to identify schemas or themes that we formed in childhood in response to early experiences to unmet emotional needs and heal them. So when we talk about schemas, we need to understand that they all they consist of memories, of emotions, of cognitions, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So it's not only just our thoughts about ourselves, it's not only just the beliefs. So it's a bigger, it involves more. This is how we see ourselves. This is how we, because of our experience, learned to see others and the world. They develop during childhood or adolescence, sometimes in adult life. They usually are supported in adult life. They are deepened and extended throughout our lifetime. and they usually create a significant degree of dysfunction and sufferings in our lives. And there are altogether 18 schemas. We will not cover them all, but we'll go through some of them so that to have more understanding, because they're very connected with our unmet needs. So one of the schema is called emotional deprivation schema. And with this schema, the person that is having this schema will have the experience in childhood, like family where the parents might be probably were emotionally neglected, or emotionally distant, could be dismissive, or too busy to offer genuine warmth. There could also be also parents that just didn't know how to be warm, maybe because they didn't have their own model with their parents, or they didn't know how to give guidance or how to give protection to the kid, and be attuned to the feelings of the child. So the child is growing with this core belief and feeling that I will never get the love and emotional support I need. And as an adult, this schema may lead to feeling of emptiness, isolation, and tendency to enter into relationships where the individual's needs are ignored or dismissed. And this adult might avoid close relationships altogether or stay in a really unsatisfying ones because they don't believe that better relationships can be there, that there will be somebody who will attune to their needs, who will really understand, who will care. Another example of schema is called abandonment instability schema. And the experience that the child might be having in childhood is frequent disruptions, such as parental divorce, severe sickness of a caregiver, or death of a caregiver, or caregivers who are physically or emotionally unavailable, unstable. And with such an experience, the child may develop this feeling and belief about himself and others that people I depend on or I care about will leave me or will stop caring about me, and I will end up alone. And as adult, such individual with this schema often struggles with the fear of abandonment and may become overly attached or clingy in relationships, constantly seeking reassurance. This can lead to relationships problems or pushing partners away due to overwhelming neediness or fear of rejection. And sometimes this can bring to the difficulties, and where this kind of like schema can prove that yes, that is true, I'm now alone. Another schema is called mistrust abuse schema. And the childhood experience of that schema would be manipulation, abuse, betrayal by caregivers or other trusted adults. Would be also siblings or peers, can be as a result of bullying. People will with this schema, kids actually at the beginning, the kids will feel that others or believe that others are there to hurt me, to lie, manipulate, abuse me. They will use me if I let them get close. And in our adult lives, this schema can cause the individual to be highly distrustful and guarded in relationships, making it difficult to form healthy, intimate connections with others. And they may also become defensive or assume the worst of others, which can create a cycle of negative relationships that reinforce again the schema. And the next one is defectiveness and shame schema. The experience with this schema in childhood is when the child is frequently criticized and shamed and bullied or compared unfavorably to others, leading to feeling of inadequacy and unworthiness. And the child starts to believe that I'm flawed and I'm unlovable. And if others knew the real me, they would probably reject me. So in the adult life, with this schema, adults with this schema might struggle with a low self-esteem, with self-sabotaging behaviors and fear of being exposed. They may avoid social situations or be excessively sensitive to criticism, and they may choose partners or situations that reinforce their feelings of inadequacy. They may choose abusive relationships as that feels familiar. Next schema is called unrelenting standards and hypercriticalness schema. The experience in childhood or adolescent, I forgot to say that it's also can be in adolescent years. So the child or adolescent grows up in a perfectionistic or highly demanding home or school environment where success is prioritized above all, and nothing less than perfection is acceptable. So very high standards. And the child believes that this is the way I need to be. I must meet my high standards to be worthwhile. It's very connected to my worth. And then, as adults, individuals with this schema may suffer from burnouts and anxiety and inability to relax. They all feel satisfying with achievements. It's never enough, whatever they do. They may also impose high standards on others, which can bring to also difficulties in relationships or at work. And they can be pretty rigid. So there are a lot of information, and I will give you some the books where you can read more on that. Will not cover because all the 18 schemas today, but just to have this understanding about some of them, what schema may look like and what it can be, what origins of the schemas it can be. So another one of these main concepts of schematherapy. So we were talking about the schemas. We will talk about co-emotional basic needs. But the another one is coping styles. So from when we develop these schemas, and they are really hard to feel, and they're really, really hard to believe in. So they're and just very difficult states. What we can be when the schema is activated, we develop these coping mechanisms. So how do we deal with that? And usually these are the same coping mechanisms that we were using in our childhood to deal with those experiences that we had in our past. And they were protective for us, and they were helping to kind of deal with those difficult experiences in life. But they can become maladapting coping styles when we still hang on to those coping mechanisms past the point that they are helpful. We are using them, the same mechanisms that we were using in our childhood because we didn't know anything else. But they can actually not letting us fulfill the needs. They can be not helpful in fulfilling our needs. And those we will not talk about that, but they can be shape our temperament. So there will be different coping mechanisms, very much connected to our temperament and our inborn tendencies. So schema modes are a combination of our schemas and our coping mechanisms. And it's out of that we see patterns playing out in our lives. So this is our states and this is our behaviors that sometimes are not helping us to heal these schemas, and sometimes that are not, that we are in, and that others can see these different behaviors when we are triggered by different schemas. So core emotional needs. Core emotional, there are 5 core emotional needs that we will talk about today. And first is safe, secure attachment. Secure attachment, it consists of 2 main things. One is we need to feel safe, and another is we need to feel seen, understood. We need to feel connection, because we all have this need as children, and we also, it's universal, and we also have this need as adults, as we essentially grown-up children. So these needs and all of the rest that we'll be talking about, we all need them, regardless of age. We may not feel in touch with these needs. Those needs may be not familiar for us. Perhaps we didn't experience them fully in childhood, but that doesn't mean that we don't need them. So safe attachment, it's where our need for attachment comes from. It's where it comes from, us feeling wanted, feeling safe, feeling secure, loved, seen, heard, and validated in our relationships and our with other people. And it needs to be attachment really for healthy relationships with multiple people, not piling all of those relationships, expectations, and needs on one person. Okay. Another need is autonomy, competency, and self-identity. We have needs to have independence, to have opportunities to grow, to make decisions, and to learn from mistakes, to feel competent, and to have some feedback about how we are doing. This helps us in feeling competent and feeling that we have a choice that we can make, that what we think matter, and that we feel this independence. Freedom for self-expression. We also need freedom for this self-expression. We need freedom to be able to express what we think, what we feel, what we like, what we dislike, what we want, and what we need. And we need to have the freedom to make some choices about those. Choices of what to wear, where to go, what work you're going to do, where you're going to live. So we need to be to express our needs, to express our feelings, and to have freedom to express our opinions. Realistic limits and self-control. No matter how old we get, we need boundaries, and boundaries around what is acceptable behavior, boundaries around what is acceptable ways of interacting with other people, boundaries for self-control and for self-discipline, and boundaries for us to take responsibilities for our own action. Sometimes we need boundaries to say, and this opportunities to say no to someone, right? Sometimes to ourselves when we have too high unrealistic expectations. So we need those boundaries in childhood and in adult lives. And the fifth one is spontaneity and play. This is the need that we need not only in childhood. This doesn't change no matter how old we get. We, as adults, still need to have fun. We need to have playfulness and silliness. This play may be a bit different in adults sometimes maybe not. So we do need to have these opportunities for fun and silliness, opportunities for adventure and creativity, for self-discovery, for imagination, to come with some crazy ideas about holidays or whatever. And also we need relaxation and soothing to feel emotionally fulfilled, to recharge emotionally and mentally. So understanding and addressing our emotional needs is key to living a healthy and fulfilling life. Think for some minutes about your childhood experiences. What needs you think were fulfilled for you? Was it that you were feeling safe and understood, and that parents were there for you to hear and support you and guide you? So maybe that's about this secure attachment. That need was fulfilled in connection. Maybe you were given this autonomy to decide what you want, what you choose. You were given some of age appropriate kind of autonomy and independence in making your decisions. Maybe your parents were good at setting realistic limits and developing this self-control, self-discipline. Maybe your parents or caregivers were good at letting you express your needs and opinions and emotions freely. Maybe your parents were spontaneous and playful themselves and were putting fun is also as important as maybe homework. Maybe that help you develop these healthy schemas, like I'm worthy of love and care, like I'm capable and competent enough. Now think what needs you think were not fulfilled in the needed way. What maybe you were missing in your childhood. Maybe you can think of what needs you think are not fulfilled enough in your current life. Are those the same needs? Or maybe different? It is sometimes hard for us to understand those needs if they were not fulfilled in our childhood, as it's sometimes unfamiliar and new. But paying more attention to our needs can help us identify what is missing in our lives. What do we lack? And then what can we do about it? So now we will do an exercise that may help tune into your feelings and identify any co emotional needs that may have come up recently. Let's start by thinking back over the past few hours or days and identify any significant emotional moments that were challenging. Think of any moments that felt emotionally challenging, times when you felt particularly upset, frustrated, anxious, or lonely. These don't have to be big events, even small moments are valuable to explore. Take a few seconds to let those moments come to mind. As you recall them, just notice what stands out for you. If nothing specific comes to mind, it might help to think of any interactions with others or times when you were alone. What were some of the feelings or reactions you were experiencing? Let's focus on the emotions you were feeling in that moment. Um, think back to that situation and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Or what was I feeling then? Take your time with this. There is no rush. Sometimes it's helpful to start with basic emotions. Was it sadness or anger or frustration? Maybe you were feeling lonely or anxious or fearful. Do you notice any physical sensations connected to this emotion? For example, tightness in your chest, a lump in your throat, or tension in your shoulder might give you a sense of the feeling. Now let's go a little deeper and explore what you might have needed in that moment. Often our emotions point to a core need that's been unmet. For example, feeling like loneliness might point to a need for connection, while frustration could indicate a need for understanding or respect. If you think back to that situation, what do you think you needed to feel more supported, respected, or at ease? What might have brought comfort, support, or relief in that moment? Is it about safety and security? If there was a fear or worry in that moment, is it possible that you needed a sense of safety or stability? What could have helped you feel it? Was it about connection and acceptance? Maybe if you're feeling lonely or left out, uh, do you think you needed a sense of connection with somebody, understanding? Was it about autonomy and freedom, identity? Sometimes frustration can mean we need a bit more independence or a sense of control. Do you think this might have been the case? Maybe there was self expression need. If you felt misunderstood, do you think there was a need to be seen or heard in that situation? Maybe that was about fun and relaxation. If you felt pressured or tense, could it be that you needed some downtime or fun? Or maybe that was about realistic limits and self discipline. If you felt bored or unmotivated, could it be small tasks that you could set for yourself for growth or developing more healthy habits that you needed at the moment? If you felt content, that might mean a need was being met, like having a sense of closeness with someone or feeling appreciated. Take a few moments to consider which of these needs might resonate with you. If one feels right, try to connect with what that need feels like and what it had been like if this need had been met in that moment. Let's think of ways you might meet this need, either on your own or with some support from others. Meeting a core need can sometimes be as simple as taking a small action or making a small shift in how we respond to ourselves or others. There are needs that we can meet ourselves. For example, if we're needing calm, maybe we can take a short break. Maybe we can relax to our favorite calming music or practice some deep breathing. Or if it was a need for play, perhaps giving ourselves permission to do something fun, do something creative, dancing, playing with a dog, or going for a walk might help. And there are needs uh, with the support from others. For example, if we need connection, perhaps a short call with a friend or talk with close one or family member or therapist can be helpful. Even letting someone close to you know how you're feeling can often bring relief. How would it feel to take this small step today or something this week? Imagine yourself doing it and how it might support you in meeting your need. How does it feel to think of meeting this need in a small, intentional way? Does it feel doable? Can you visualize doing it? As we finish up, take a moment to reflect on this exercise. What was it like to explore your emotional needs in this way? Did anything stand out to you? Building this habit of tuning into our needs can be a powerful way to stay connected with ourselves. Over time, it can help us develop deep understanding of what we need to feel fulfilled and supported each day. So, what we were doing, we reflected on the day, on the, this period of day, that several days can be. We tried to identify and name our emotions, the basic ones. We tried to connect to our core needs and identify what is that I needed, or what is that I need this time, this period of my time. What is that I'm missing? And the fourth step was to explore how we can meet this need. Can we meet it ourselves? Can we meet this need ourselves? So, do we need somebody to help this need meet, like connection, for example? We can do this exercise concerning the period of our lives, several days, what is happening, to be more attuned to our co-emotional needs. Or we can do a quick needs check in exercise. So this is something we can do several times a day. And it can be before or after significant events. It can be before we start the work, during a break, after lunch, um, and after a stressful event. Or we can take 3 deep breaths and ask ourselves 3 questions. What am I feeling right now? What emotional need is behind this feeling? And how can I fulfill this need now? With some time and practice, we can more easily identify what is really that we need. And maybe more easily identify too the difference, because not all the needs, not all what we want are what we need. But we need to follow our needs first. So here are these books there where you can read more on schemas and co-emotional needs. And this is a self-help books. And I guess that's the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions, you can ask or you can write me, and I will gladly answer that. Oh, Nicole, you are mute.
I'm sorry, of course I was on mute. Thank you very much, Viktoriia. That was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Lots of good information, but I also really love the experiential part, which we always don't get a chance for. And I had a moment where I got to experience what it's like to be your client, which was really lovely too. But just to reflect and integrate a little bit on the information. So thanks for all of that.
Thank
And
you.
just taking a look to see if we have any questions. For those of you that need to leave, I just want to thank you for joining us. We're always happy to have you. We will post the recording and the resources on the website in the next couple of days, and we hope to see you again. Those of you still here, if you have any comments or questions, I just saw a question pop up in the Q&A. Where does PTSD fit in, or does it?
Yeah, it fits as the trauma work, and we work on the experiences that the person can have. Um, we work and identify any underlying schemas, but the work with PTSD, if it's not complex PTSD, would be more probably in cognitive uh, as a work schema, cognitive therapy schema, probably trauma focused more. But if it's more traumas from the childhood, then a schematherapy can be really helpful.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions or comments? Oh, we have a comment. You mentioned schemas fight
Yeah,
for survival. Why does that happen? Is it because it is a familiar coping strategy?
yeah, yeah. So we were talking that it's kind of like lenses. So schemas, we are focusing on things that prove the schemas are right. So, for example, if talking about the same failure schema, so the person will be noticing all the situation when he did mistake or failed, that will prove that the schema is right, and that is and he is a failure. But he will not schema will not let you kind of pay attention to all these other situations where you did well. So this way it kind of proves, and it gets stronger. We just focus on that sounds and looks familiar, and that fits to the schema, unfortunately.
It's hard to break those patterns, but
Yeah,
definitely possible.
yeah, because they are not only cognitions, right? There's emotions and memories and our physical sensations.
Mhm. Thank you. Another comment, very interesting presentation. Early childhood experiences can impact your adult life. Oh, profoundly. That is true.
That's true, positively and negatively, and it can be in our home. We can be influenced by the parenting. We can be influenced by peers. We can be influenced by other adults in our life, important adults in our life, and school. And of course, if these needs are not met in those different uh, surroundings, then of course the schemas get really rigid and strong. Yeah, and then of course in life they bring to more sufferings and in life. Mhm.
Thank you. We do have another question too. If people criticize you, is that their schema of you? or is it their projection of their own schema?
If people, let me
People
see. Mhm.
criticize you, is it their schema of you, or is it their projection of their own schema?
Okay, that's interesting question.
It is.
Yeah. So, yeah, it can be both. So, sometimes we can be, the schema is our belief, right, and memories, and then we can be in this state, in a coping state, where we either don't want to believe schema is true, or we agree the schema is true, or we believe in the opposite, that actually that's not true. These are different styles, and sometimes our behavior um, would bring criticism in others. It's our states in which we are, and sometimes others may not like it. Sometimes we can see these different states in others that are also driven by their schemas. Yeah. So it can be different. Sometimes we do behave in the way that others may not like, or can be hurtful by others. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's the way they perceive our behavior.
Oh my goodness. Human interactions are so layered and complex. It feels like a
Yeah,
miracle sometimes when we really see each other for who we are. And yet
yeah,
it does require a lot of self-awareness to do that consistently. We have
yeah.
another question
Exactly.
too. You
Mhm.
mentioned temperament factors.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, temperament factors. Does the child's perception of events also cause schemas to develop?
Yes, the sensitivity. So, some children, we can see that in the same family, some kids may develop these schemas and others will not, or they will develop different. So, the same environment can bring different schemas, considering the temperament. So with the sensitive temperament, and when we don't have enough of something, the kid doesn't have enough of these good things or too much of the bad things. With the sensitive temperament, he may develop these stronger schemas and coping styles, how he can deal with that. Yeah, so it's very connected. And some, we know that some kids, even like they can have some bad experiences, but they'll be fine. And they will not develop that. They will have this more balanced, yeah, like, yeah, I was criticized, but it's okay. So we also need to understand that schemas don't develop because one thing happened, like once somebody criticized somebody, something bad happened. So it should be consistent things that are happening to create the schema, because we all have something in our childhood, right? We do all have schemas, but if we have a lot of bad happening or a lot of not enough good happening, we can create these strong and rigid schemas that can really affect our lives, where we cannot fulfill the needs we want. So we'll need to fulfill the needs, and this is what we probably need to do now. I'll definitely go and listen to my calming music while I go drive.
Yeah.
Because this was my need on to have fun, but it was also work. So
Yeah.
my need now is relaxing.
Some balance. Yeah. Oh, well, with that,
Thanks
we'll
to
end.
everyone.
I see comment about how interesting the presentation was, and it really was. And I really want to thank everyone for your really
Thank you.
insightful questions that really helped bring
Yeah,
some
that was really good
understanding as well.
questions.
Yeah. Well, thanks
Everyone,
again, Viktoriia. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope we'll see you again and have a really nice evening.
have,
Take
have
care.
all the best to everyone. Bye.